Welcome to Reflective Minds. Friends, today we will discuss principle of dosage form design. As you know that we have discussed that there are different kinds of dosage forms available, and pharmaceutics is a science of developing dosage form, designing dosage form. So what are the principles? Basically, the drugs are chemical pure substances, okay, but they are never used alone. Almost all drugs are formulated in the end product, that is medicine, and they can vary relatively from simple solutions to complex drug delivery systems, and it depends upon the additives which are used and excipients which are used to make the formulations. What are function of excipients? The excipients provide varied and specialized pharmaceutical functions. Like there are like different functions which they perform, like they help in solubilization, enhance the solubilization, they help in suspending agent, they act as a thickening agent, they act as a preservative agent, they act as emulsifying agent, they modify the dissolution parameters of a formulation, they improve the compactability and favors drug substances to form various medicine or the dosage forms. You can understand it like this, that excipients are the components which are added or mixed with the drugs just to enhance the performance of the dosage form, and they can do it by these parameters, like enhancing the solubilization, enhancing the suspension. So they are different agents. These excipients are different agents which are added to give enhanced properties to the formulation. What is principal objective here? What we are looking for basically? The principal objective of any dosage form design is to achieve a predictable therapeutic response. That's the principal objective. Predictable therapeutic response to a drug included in a formulation which is capable of large-scale manufacture with a reproducible product quality. Rest you can forget. The principal objective we can say is to achieve a predictable therapeutic response, and how that is achieved by the appropriate use of excipients. Okay, how quality is ensured in the dosage form? Numerous features are required for this. Chemical and physical stability is checked. Suitable preservation against microbial contaminations are used. Uniformity of dosage form is checked again and again. Acceptability to users is checked, including both the prescriber and the patient. Acceptability should be on the both sides. Suitable packaging and labeling should be there. So when these parameters are met, we ensure the product quality. After that, we consider bioavailability considerations. What are bioavailability considerations? Considerations should be given to the differences in bioavailability of the drugs and their biofate in patients between the apparently similar formulations and possible causative reasons. In recent years, increasing attention has therefore been directed towards eliminating the variation in the bioavailability characteristics, particularly for the medical products containing an equivalent dose of a drug substance, as it is recognized that formulation factors can influence their therapeutic performance. So it's a self-explanatory here. It is suggesting that formulation factors like the excipients or other factors, the procedure by which the drug is, the formulation is developed, can influence the bioavailability characteristics. And as a pharmacist or as a drug design scientist, your responsibility is to control the variation in the bioavailability characteristics. Why? Because let's suppose you develop 5 dosage forms, five, not 5 dosage form, 1 dosage form, 5 tablets of same formulation. Okay, and the bioavailability of each tablet should be same. Even the bioavailability should be same between the tablet and the capsule and the syrup. So there should be a least amount of bioavailability variation. To optimize the bioavailability of a drug substance, it is often necessary to carefully select the most appropriate chemical from the form of the drug. First step should use the most appropriate chemical form of the drug. For example, solubility requirement, drug particle size, and the physical form, and consider the appropriate additives and manufacturing aids coupled to selecting the most appropriate administration route and the dosage form. So you understand here that to optimize the bioavailability, first thing is that you have to consider the bioavailability variations. Okay, then you have to come up with the practice how you can minimize it. And how you can minimize it? By solubility requirement checking, by checking drug particle size, by checking physical form, by considering the usage of appropriate excipients, and as well as the dosage form itself and the administration route. So all these factors combine, when they combine and they are used in appropriate levels, they provide a minimum bioavailability variations. Additional suitable manufacturing processes, labeling, packaging are required. Why you think that packaging and labeling would affect the bioavailability? Let's say labeling will not affect the bioavailability, but manufacturing process and packaging will definitely affect the bioavailability of a drug. Because you see, if you are changing the manufacturing process, let's suppose if you are preparing a tablet with a wet granulation method and then there is a dry granulation method, so there will be a moisture difference. So the bioavailability could be decreased or vary because of the degradation due to the presence of the moisture. Okay, and same goes for the packaging. If packaging is not good, the product could deteriorate. So you have to come up with the solutions. There are numerous dosage forms into which drug substances can be incorporated for a convenient and efficacious treatment of a disease. Dosage forms can be designed for administration by alternative delivery routes to maximize the therapeutic response. So the point here stresses that it is not essential that you always select the specific dosage form. Let's say tablet. If that tablet, the dosage form, is not fulfilling or not giving the maximum therapeutic response, then you should switch to the other dosage form. Because if you are making a dosage form, while designing a dosage form, the principal concept is you should receive the maximum therapeutic response. And if you fail to do that, then the design itself has failed. There are different preparation, administration route and dosage forms. In this table you can see. For oral, you can prepare the dosage forms like solutions, syrups, suspensions, emulsions, gels, powders, granules, capsules and tablets. Granules and the powders are mostly filled into the capsules. Rectal, suppositories, ointments, creams, powders and solutions. Then we have topical administration route, ointment, creams, paste, lotions, gels, solutions, topical aerosols, foams, transdermal patches. And for the parenteral route we have injections, which can be solution, suspension or emulsions, implants, and irrigation and dialysis solutions. Respiratory, we have aerosols. Aerosols again can be solutions, suspension, emulsions and powder forms, inhalations and sprays and gases. Nasal, solutions and inhalations. Eye, solutions, ointments and creams. Ear, solutions, suspensions, ointments and cream. So these are the different administrative routes and different preparations which are available currently. Okay, drug and dosage form selection. Their optimization is also very important. You will see how. However, it is necessary to relate the drug substance to the clinical indication being treated before the correct combination of drug and dosage form can be made, since each disease or illness often requires a specific type of drug therapy. Let's suppose if you are making a tablet or medicine for ulcer in a stomach region. So if you will make and we know the stomach pH is around it's acidic 1 to 3 pH and maximum goes to 4 pH when it is full. Okay, so if you are making a dosage form which deteriorates or which is destroyed by the acidic environment of the stomach, will that be appropriate? No. Then what? Then you have to go for indirect coating tablets maybe, which is not deteriorated in the stomach and can be retained for the longer period of time, or you can go for the floating tablets. So they would be help to reach the target location. One more example, if you are developing a dosage form to treat a colon cancer or any other disease which is present in colon, and your formulation is like destroyed even before reaching the destination. So in that context, what you have to do? So you have to be very careful about this combination, that is correct combination of drug and dosage form. What kind of dosage form you should make that could last longer, that it reaches to the colon region and treat and give a proper and maximum therapeutic response. Okay. In addition, factors governing the choice of administration route and the specific requirement of that route which affect the drug absorption need to be taken into account when designing a dosage form. Again, it is suggested that administration route is also important, as we have discussed right now, that if it is okay, we can discuss this further. Let's say that route of administration. Okay, fine. Let's say that you have an elderly patient, okay, and he is on ventilator, and you have to give him some medication for respiratory disease. What will you do? Can you give him tablets? No. Can you give him syrups? No. Then how would you treat that? Maybe you can give inhalations, or maybe you can give a parenterals, right? So the route of administration is also very important, and the condition of the patient is also very important. So while designing a dosage form, you have to keep in mind what is your target audience, what is your target patients, who you want to treat. You have to keep in mind these all factors before going for the design of a dosage form. Okay? Many drugs are formulated into several dosage forms of varying strength, each having a selected pharmaceutical characteristics which are suitable for a specific application. Again, see, this is how the problem is solved. Let's suppose a Panadol is only and only available in the tablet form. Then what? It is not available in injection, it's not available in syrup form, it's not available in any other form. Is that a good option? No. It should be available in varying strength in the different dosage forms, because it will be useful in a specific applications, in a specific scenarios. Okay. Okay, examples of the drugs which are available in different forms. One such drug is glucocorticoid peridenosole, used in the suppression of the inflammatory and allergic disorders. Through the use of different chemical form and formulation additive, range of effective anti-inflammatory preparations are available, including tablet, indirect coated tablet, injection, eye drops, and enema. Extremely low aqueous solubility of the base peridenosole and acetate salt makes these forms useful in a tablet and slowly absorbed intramuscular suspension injection form, while the soluble sodium phosphate salt enables a soluble tablet form in a solution for the eye and ear drops, enema and intravenous injection to be prepared. You see that how different formulations are prepared with the different salts, how they are enhancing the absorption in that dosage form. That is very important. You see the extremely low aqueous solubility of the base. This base, peridensol, has a extremely low aqueous solubility. Okay, so then its acetate salt is made. When its acetate salts are made, then solubility enhances and it is used in tablet formulation. If you are using glucocorticoid in a tablet, then you have to use acetate salts to enhance its solubility. While the slowly absorbed intramuscular suspension injection form, then here we are enhancing the solubility because it's a tablet form, but for intramuscular we are using suspension form because it must absorb slowly into the muscles. On the other hand, sodium soluble phosphate salts, phosphate salts are used to enable the soluble tablets to form soluble tablets. And solutions for eye and ear drops are also made. Enema and intravenous injections are prepared. Another example, analgesic paracetamol is also available in the wide range of dosage forms and is strengths to meet the specific need of the user, including tablets, dispersible tablets, pediatric soluble tablets, pediatric oral solution, sugar-free oral solution, oral suspension, double-strength oral suspension, and suppositories. You see, paracetamol is a very over-the-counter drug basically, and it is available in so many forms, so many dosage forms, and it is very helpful. But to design and develop a dosage form is challenging and at the same time requires detailed understanding of the route through which the drug is being administered. Biotechnological based drug substances, what are those and how they are developed? In addition, while many new drugs based on low molecular weight organic compounds continue to be discovered and transformed into the medicinal products, the development of drugs from the biotechnology is increasing and the importance of these therapeutic agents is growing. Such active compounds are macromolecules and are relatively large molecular weight, and these include materials such as peptides, proteins, and viral components. So these materials like peptides, protein, and viral components are developed by using biotechnology. These are big molecules, heavy in weight, and they are finding their way into the medicinal world. These drug substances present a different and a complex challenge in their formulation and processing into the medicine due to their alternative biological and chemical and structural properties. Now the challenge here is they have different biological, chemical and structural properties as compared to the other medicinal origins, substances, or you can say, or API. So they are posing a challenge here. Nevertheless, the underlying principle of dosage form remains the same. But still, as we have discussed, the underlying principle of dosage form design, that is to attain maximum therapeutic response, remains same. At present, these therapeutic agents are principally formulated into the parenteral and respiratory dosage forms, although other routes of administration are being considered and researched. Delivery of these biotechnological based drug substances via these routes administration imposes additional constraint upon the selection of appropriate formulation excipients. As we suggested earlier, that drug alone is not given. It is given in addition to excipients which finally forms the end product medicine. So these biotechnological developed substances are finding their way into the medicinal world, but the challenge is that they have to be incorporated with a suitable excipients to come up with the appropriate dosage form. It is therefore apparent that before a drug substance can be successfully formulated into a dosage form, many factors must be considered. As you now understand that these are all the factors which you have to consider before a raw form of the API is converted into the medicine, the end product. What kind of factors should be considered? Generally talking, 3 factors: biopharmaceutical considerations, including factors affecting the absorption of the drug substance from the different administration routes. That is, these biopharmaceutical considerations basically are related to human body and routes of administration. You should have a proper understanding of these. Drug factors such as the physical and chemical properties of drug substance, and then the therapeutic condition, including considerations of the clinical indication to be treated and patient factors. High quality and efficacious medicines will be formulated and prepared only when all these factors are considered and related to each other. This is the underlying principle of the dosage form design. Thank you friends. Have a nice day. Bye bye.